Good morning. Luke 1:65 and 66 says, "And fear came on all that dwelt round about them, and all these sayings were noised abroad throughout all the hill country of Judea. And all they that heard them laid them up in their hearts, saying, What manner of child is this? And the hand of the Lord was on him." The family and neighbors had come and gone with no little commotion. Some had come to see the oddity and new life from old ones. Some murmured about Abraham and Sarah and wondered what this little child would become. The motion became vigorous when they had unexpectedly named the child John, and then after 10 months of silence, Zachariah had practically burst open with praise the moment they named the baby. Mary was astonished and yet not terribly surprised. There was nothing usual about the way things were happening to Zachariah and to Elizabeth or to her. God was moving among his people again, speaking through angels and even through his servants like Zachariah. Zachariah spoke of the king God promised to Abraham and David, the one who would save Israel, the one growing inside her. He spoke of John as the prophet of God, who would prepare the way for the saving king, her king. The guests had gone, and their amazement and questioning followed them into the street. As Mary was seeing the guests out, she noticed Zachariah's cousin wave to a neighbor on the road. Curious to hear his evaluation of all that had happened, Mary stood in the doorway, close enough to hear, yet far enough away to be unnoticed. "Where are you coming from, friend?" the man in the road asked. "Oh, I've been to Zachariah's house." He fell in step with his friend. God gave him a son, John. John? There's no one in his family named John, he paused. I heard Zachariah was mute. Is he well? Oh, yes. In fact, he spoke today quite articulately, too. Of what? The king. Herod? No, the Messiah, the one who will save us from the wretched Roman rule. Well, he can't come soon enough. Zachariah speaks as if he's on his way. Who is it then? Zachariah's son? He raised a skeptical eyebrow. No, but Zachariah says the Messiah is coming. He sounded sure and changed the subject. They were out of earshot now. Mary stepped back into the house, closed the door, and leaned up against it. On the other side of the room, Elizabeth rocked John, while Zachariah hummed a tune for both of them. Their sleepy smiles seemed permanent. Mary closed her heavy eyelids and smiled too. She placed a hand on her growing tummy. She can be sure he's definitely on his way. The miracles of God sometimes come like his word with two-edged swords. First, there is an undeniable answer to prayer, a healing, a pregnancy, a deliverance of some sort. Each circumstance brought about undeniable divine intervention. There is happiness over the healing, joy over the child, corporate glee for what God has done. But after the miracle settles in, the baby is born, life returns to a normal rhythm. The second edge of the sword flashes in the light as friends and family, neighbors and strangers make the recipient of the miracle the talk of their evening meals and the subject of their visiting walks. And while it is refreshing and encouraging to remember the uncommon in our humanity, we are quick to turn an eye from the miracle worker to the miracle's recipient. Elizabeth and Zachariah and baby John were discussed at length around the dinner tables of Judea, and when folks are whispering about others, they are also withdrawing from them. It isn't awkward to have to discuss in private events of someone's life and then meet them face to face the following morning. With the joy of divine intervention is also sometimes the pain of isolation. But God has never instituted a circumstance he couldn't use. And while all the hill country of Judea discussed the particulars, Zechariah and Elizabeth lived them. We can be sure they told John the whole holy story and lived out what they had learned right in front of their little boy. And in doing so, they prepared the boy who would prepare the way for the king. O Lord, when you begin to work, your movements resonate in the hearts of all who are called according to your purpose. Even in isolating obedience, you are with us to continue your work. Thank you for working in a fragile people. Amen. And thanks again for listening. See you tomorrow.